Excuse me, I think you have me confused with someone else. Those were the words that shattered what was left of my sanity. I was at the Kroger supermarket on a Friday afternoon, buying tomatoes and onions to make soup. It had been 6 months since I buried my husband, 6 months since I watched the casket lower into the ground, 6 months since my life split in two. I was in aisle 3, near the canned goods. When I saw him, it was him. The same height, the same way of walking, the same curve in his shoulders when he reached for something on the shelf, even the way he tilted his head to read the labels, that thing Harry always did, as if the world were a letter written in fine print. My heart stopped. I dropped my basket. Cans of beans rolled across the linoleum floor. I didn't care. I ran toward him. "Harry!" I screamed. "Harry, my love!" He turned around, and then I saw his face. It was him. The same nose, the same birthmark near his left eye, the same thin scar on his eyebrow from that time he fell off his bike when he was 12, a story he told me on our 3rd night as a married couple. I started to cry. I couldn't stop. My hands were shaking as I reached out to him. "Harry, how is this possible?" He looked at me, and in that look, I saw something that made my blood run cold. Confusion. "Excuse me, ma'am," he said with that voice I had heard every day for 32 years. "I think you have me confused with someone else." "No," I whispered. "No, you're my husband." He took a step back. "I'm very sorry, but I don't know you." He didn't know me. This man with Harry's face, Harry's voice, Harry's scar, he didn't know me. "Please," I begged, grabbing his arm. He was wearing a navy blue shirt. Harry had one just like it. "Please, Harry, it's me. It's Rachel, your wife." He pulled away gently but firmly. "Ma'am, I think you're mistaken. My name isn't Harry." And then he walked away. He headed toward the checkout, paid for his items, and walked out of the supermarket as if nothing had happened, as if I didn't exist. I stayed there in the middle of aisle 3, surrounded by cans of beans on the floor, crying in front of strangers who looked at me with pity. The security guard approached. "Are you all right, ma'am?" No, I wasn't all right, because I had just seen my dead husband walking through the aisles of a grocery store, and he didn't recognize me. That night, in my empty house, I sat on the bed I had shared with Harry for 32 years. It still smelled like him, his aftershave, his sleep. I grabbed my phone and searched my photos for the last one I took of him, 3 days before the heart attack. He was in the garden watering the plants, smiling the same smile I saw today, the same face, the same man. But he said he wasn't Harry. So, who was he? And most importantly, why did he have the identical face of my dead husband? My name is Rachel Carson. I'm 57 years old, and the story I'm about to tell you is something I still struggle to believe myself. But it happened, and it changed everything I thought I knew about the man I was married to for over 3 decades. Sometimes we trust the ones we love too much. Have you ever been disappointed by someone close to you? Tell me your story in the comments. I want to read it. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw him walking down that aisle, turning toward me, saying those words that broke me for the second time. "I think you have me confused with someone else." I got up at 3 a.m. and went to the living room. I poured myself a glass of water and sat in the recliner where Harry used to fall asleep watching football. His folded blanket was still on the arm of the sofa. His slippers were still by the coffee table. 6 months. 6 months since that morning when I walked into the bedroom and found him collapsed in the bathroom. The heart attack had killed him while he was getting ready for work. He didn't even have time to scream. The doctor told me it was instant, that he didn't suffer. But I suffered. I suffered every day since then. I suffered when I had to choose the casket. I suffered when my children cried at the funeral. I suffered when I closed his closet and packed away his clothes because I couldn't bear to see them. I suffered every night sleeping in this house that suddenly felt too big and too quiet. And now I was suffering again, but in a different way, because either I was going crazy or something impossible had happened in that supermarket. I picked up my phone, my hands shaking as I opened the photo gallery. I looked for that last photo of Harry, the one I took 3 days before he died. There he was, smiling in the plaid shirt he liked so much, with that birthmark near his left eye, with that scar on his eyebrow. I zoomed in on the image. The scar. The same scar I saw today on that man's face. Harry told me the story of that scar on our honeymoon. We were 25, lying on the sand in Daytona Beach, watching the stars. I traced the thin line with my finger and asked him how he got it. I fell off my bike when I was 12, he told me. I was riding down a steep hill in my neighborhood, trying to impress some friends. I lost control and crashed into a utility pole. My mom almost died of fright when she saw me come home with my face covered in blood. She took me to the hospital, and I got 6 stitches. 6 stitches. The man at the supermarket had that exact same scar in the exact same place. How was it possible? I stood up. I started pacing the living room. My mind wouldn't stop spinning. There were 3 possible explanations. 1. I had gone crazy from grief and was hallucinating. 2. Harry had faked his death in some impossible way. 3. That man was, what, a double? A secret twin? The first option terrified me. The second was absurd. And the third was impossible. Harry had told me his whole life story. He was an only child. His mother, Grace, had died 5 years ago. His father died when he was 20. He had no siblings, no close cousins. His family was small. I knew his entire life, didn't I? I walked toward the bedroom. I opened Harry's closet. His smell was still there. Aftershave, soap, that scent that was uniquely his. I started going through his things, his shirts, his trousers, the box where he kept his watches, the shelf where he had his ties folded. I don't know what I was looking for, a sign, proof, something to tell me I wasn't losing my mind. And then I saw it. At the bottom of the closet, behind the shoe boxes we never moved, there was a cardboard box I didn't recognize. I pulled it out. It was dusty, heavy. I sat on the floor and opened it. Inside were papers, old documents, yellowing photographs. I pulled out the first photograph. It was a young woman, maybe 20 years old, holding a baby. Behind her was an old building with a sign that read, Street Mary's Home for Children, Chicago. An orphanage. I turned the photo over. On the back, in faded handwriting, it said, Grace, 1967. Grace, Harry's mother. My heart started beating faster. I pulled out more photos. One of them showed the same woman, a little older, standing in front of a church holding a small boy by the hand. The boy looked about 5. Dark hair, big eyes, hairy. But there was something strange in that photo. In the blurry background, there was another person, a boy of the same age, with the same dark hair. I grabbed a magnifying glass that Harry kept on his desk. I went back to the photo and examined it. The boy in the background looked like the boy holding Grace's hand. Too much like him. My hands started to tremble. I pulled another document from the box. It was a birth certificate. Harold Carson. Born the 15th of August, 1967. Chicago, Illinois. Mother, Grace Miller. Father, unknown. Father, unknown? Harry had never told me that. He always told me his dad's name was Robert Carson and that he had died when Harry was 20. I never met him. I never saw photos of him. Harry said his mom had kept very few things after he died. But this birth certificate said father unknown. I kept searching the box. I found an old, yellowed newspaper clipping from 1967. The headline read, Street Mary's Home for Children celebrates successful adoption program. Over 30 children find families this year. Beneath it was a group photo of babies and toddlers with the nuns of the orphanage. And in the bottom corner of the photo, circled in pencil so faintly it was barely visible, was a baby. Next to the circle, in shaky handwriting, someone had written, My 2 boys. No, my boy. I sat on the closet floor for hours, surrounded by papers and photographs, trying to understand what I was seeing. Harry had been adopted, that was clear now. But those photos, that certificate, that circle around 2 babies, was it possible? Was it possible that Harry had a twin brother he never knew existed? And that man in the supermarket, I took my wedding ring between my fingers and twisted it. Harry had put it on me 32 years ago, promising to love me until death did us part. And death had parted us. But now I had to know the truth. Even if it hurt, even if it destroyed me, even if it changed everything I thought I knew about the man I loved, I had to find that man from the supermarket. I had to discover who he really was. As I tell this, I wonder where you are listening from. Write the name of your city in the comments. On Monday, I went back to the supermarket. I couldn't wait. I couldn't sit in my house surrounded by old photos and unanswered questions. I needed to see him again. I needed to confirm I hadn't imagined it. I arrived at 10 a.m., the same time as Friday. I grabbed a cart, even though I didn't need anything. I walked slowly down every aisle. Aisle 1, aisle 2, aisle 3. Nothing. I did 3 full laps around the store. 1 hour, 2 hours. He wasn't there. I sat in the Starbucks inside the store with a coffee I didn't want to drink. My hands were shaking. My heart was beating too fast. What if I had imagined it? What if it wasn't real? An employee walked by, wiping down the tables near me. She was an older woman, maybe 60, wearing the store vest and a kind smile. "Excuse me," I said before I could think it through. "Do you work here every day?" She looked at me with curiosity. "Yes, ma'am. I've been working here for 15 years. Do you need something?" "Last Friday," I said, choosing my words carefully. "I saw a man here, tall, about 60, gray hair, a scar on his eyebrow. He was wearing a navy blue shirt. Have you seen him often?" The woman furrowed her brow, thinking, "A scar on the eyebrow. Yes, here?" She pointed to her own brow. She remained thoughtful. "I think I know who you're talking about. He comes on Friday afternoons. Very punctual, that gentleman. Buys the same things every week: milk, bread, fruit, some canned goods. Always pays in cash." My heart leaped. "Do you know his name or where he lives?" She looked at me oddly. "No, ma'am. I just clean the tables. But he's very polite. Always says hello." "You said he comes on Fridays?" "Yes, like clockwork. Always between 4 and 5 p.m. 4 days. I had to wait 4 days to see him again. But now, at least I knew I hadn't imagined it. That man existed. He came here every week, and I was going to be waiting for him. The next 4 days were torture. I couldn't sleep well. I couldn't eat well. My children called, worried. "Mom, are you okay?" my daughter Sarah asked on Wednesday afternoon. "You sound strange." "I'm fine, sweetie," I lied. "Just a little tired." "Have you been going to your appointments with the therapist?" she insisted. "After Dad died, you said you would go every week." I had stopped going 2 months ago. The sessions made me feel worse. The therapist wanted me to process the grief, to accept the loss, to move on. But how could I do that when I had just seen my dead husband walking in a supermarket? "Yes, I'm going," I lied again. "Don't worry about me, Sarah. I'm fine." But I wasn't fine. I spent those 4 days investigating. I searched the internet for everything I could find about Street Mary's Home for Children in Chicago. I found that it had closed in 1985. The records had been transferred to the state archives. I called the Department of Human Services. They passed me from extension to extension for 2 hours until finally, a woman told me, "Adoption records from before 1990 are sealed, ma'am. They can only be opened with a court order or if the adoptee requests their file." "But my husband died," I explained. "I'm his widow. I need to know if—" "I'm sorry, ma'am. Without a court order, I can't help you." I hung up, frustrated. I checked the box I found in Harry's closet again. I took out all the photos and put them in chronological order on the dining room table. Grace with a baby at the orphanage. Grace with a small child in front of the church. Grace with Harry at about 10 years old, in what looked like his first communion suit. Harry as a teenager. Harry as a young man, maybe 20, next to his mom at a party. A complete life documented in photographs. But in none of them did his father appear, that Robert Carson, who supposedly died when Harry was 20. It had all been a lie. Or maybe Grace had lied to Harry. Maybe she never told him he was adopted. Maybe she took that secret to the grave. And if Harry had a twin, if that man in the supermarket was his brother, where had he been all these years? Why did they never meet? Why were they separated? So many questions, and only one way to find the answers. Go back to that supermarket on Friday. On Friday, I arrived at 3 p.m., an hour before he was supposed to appear, according to the cleaning lady. I sat in the cafe area with a view of the main entrance. I ordered another coffee I wasn't going to drink. I put my phone on the table with Harry's last photo open. I looked at it every 5 minutes, comparing the same eyes, the same nose, the same mouth. At 3:30, my heart was beating so fast I thought I was going to have a heart attack. At 4:10, I saw him enter. It was him. He walked straight toward the carts. He took one and started walking toward the produce section. I stood up, my legs trembling. This time I wasn't going to run toward him screaming like a crazy woman. This time I was going to be smarter. I followed him from a distance. He picked apples and put them in a bag. He picked bananas, oranges. He moved calmly, without haste, like someone with an established routine. He walked to the dairy aisle, took milk, yogurt. I followed him 10 feet behind, pretending to check products on the shelves. He hadn't seen me yet. He moved to the canned goods aisle. He took 2 cans of tuna, a can of beans, tomato sauce, and then, as if he felt someone watching him, he turned. Our eyes met. I saw the recognition on his face. He didn't recognize me, but he recognized that I was the woman from last Friday, the crazy woman who had confused him with someone else. He took a step back. "Please," I said quickly, raising my hands to show I wasn't a threat. "Please, don't leave. I just want to talk to you." He looked side to side, as if looking for help. "Ma'am, I already told you last week. I don't know you." "I know," I said, approaching slowly. "I know. And I believe you, but I need you to listen to me for just 1 minute." "Please," he hesitated. I saw in his eyes that he was considering simply walking away. "My husband died 6 months ago," I said quickly before he could escape. "His name was Harold Carson, and you are identical to him." He frowned. "There are a lot of people who look alike, ma'am." "Not like this," I insisted. "You have the same scar as him. Here." I pointed to my eyebrow, in the exact same spot, the same birthmark near the left eye, the same face, the same voice. He unconsciously touched his scar. "Does that mean, were you adopted?" I asked directly. The change in his expression gave me the answer before he could speak. Surprise, discomfort, and something else, fear. "That's none of your business," he said finally, his voice tense. "My husband was also adopted," I said. "From an orphanage in Chicago, Street Mary's home. In 1967, I saw the color drain from his face. "How do you know?" "Because I found documents," I said. "Photos, a birth certificate, and I think you and my husband were brothers." He shook his head. "No, that's impossible, because I don't have siblings. I was born alone. They told me that when I requested my adoption file 20 years ago." "Are you sure?" I pressed. "Did you see the full file? Did you read everything?" He gripped the handle of the shopping cart tightly. "They told me my biological mother left me at the orphanage, that she was alone, that she couldn't take care of me. Is that all you know?" "What about your date of birth?" I asked, my heart in my throat. He looked at me with suspicion. "Why do you want to know that?" "Please," I begged. "Just tell me your date of birth." There was a long silence. "Finally," he said, "the 15th of August, 1967. The world stopped. The same date as Harry, the same day, the same month, the same year." "Oh my God," I whispered. He had realized it too. I saw how his face changed, how the slow and terrible understanding began to break through in his mind. "No," he said, shaking his head. "No, that can't be." "What is your name?" I asked with a trembling voice. He looked at me, and in his eyes I saw the same pain I was feeling. "Robert," he said finally. "My name is Robert. Robert." The name of Harry's fictitious father. The name Grace had invented to hide the truth. And suddenly it all made sense. Grace hadn't lied about the name Robert. She had used that name to remember the son she had to leave behind. The twin brother Harry never knew existed. Robert looked at me with Harry's eyes, with the same expression of confusion and pain I saw on my husband so many times when life hit him hard. "I think we need to talk," I said softly. He nodded slowly, still in shock. "Yes," he said hoarsely. "I think so." And there, in the middle of the canned goods aisle of a Kroger supermarket, 2 strangers united by a dead man and a 57-year-old secret began to discover a truth that would change our lives forever. What would you have done in my place? Would you have believed him? Leave me your opinion in the comments. We ended up sitting in the supermarket cafe. Robert had abandoned his cart in the aisle. I had left mine too. Neither of us could think about food right now. He sat across from me, with his hands on the table, staring at his untouched cup of coffee. I held mine in my hands, seeking warmth even though I wasn't cold. For the first 5 minutes, neither of us spoke. What do you say in a moment like this? How do you start a conversation that could change everything you thought you knew about your life? Finally, I was the one to break the silence. How long have you known you were adopted? I asked gently. Robert looked up. Up close, the similarities to Harry were even more shocking. The same shape of the eyes, the same wrinkles on the forehead, even the way he pursed his lips when he was thinking. I always knew, he said finally. My adoptive parents never lied to me about that. Since I can remember, they told me they adopted me because they loved me and wanted me in their life. They were good to you? A small smile appeared on his face. They were wonderful. My dad was an elementary school teacher. My mom was a nurse. We didn't have much money, but we had love. A lot of love. His smile faded. They both died 10 years ago, 6 months apart. My mom first, of cancer. My dad after, I think, of a broken heart. I nodded. I knew that kind of love, the kind that kills you when the other person goes. And you never looked for your biological family? I tried once, Robert said, playing with his cup. About 20 years ago, I went to the state records office. I asked for my adoption file. They gave me what they had. It wasn't much. A birth certificate that said, Mother unknown, Father unknown. A report saying I was found at the door of Street Mary's home when I was just days old. And a handwritten note that said, Please take care of my baby. I can't give him what he deserves. My heart sank. A note? Yes, I still have it at home. I kept it all these years. He paused. They told me my biological mother was probably very young, that maybe her parents forced her to leave me. That in those times, a single woman with a baby. Well, you know how it was. I did know. The 1960s in the U.S., the stigma, the shame, families hiding their pregnant daughters or sending them away to homes for unwed mothers. And they never told you that you might have a brother? Never? Nothing in the file said anything about that. And when I asked if there was more information, they said no, that the orphanage records were incomplete, that many documents were lost when the place closed. I took out my phone, opened Harry's photo, and placed it on the table between us. This was my husband, Harry. Robert looked at the photo, and I saw his face change, disbelief giving way to awe, his eyes filling with tears he tried to hold back. It's like looking in a mirror, he whispered. I know. When did he die? 6 months ago. A heart attack. It was very fast. He didn't suffer. Robert ran his finger over the phone screen, zooming in on the image. Did he know he was adopted? I shook my head. No. And I didn't know either. Until last week. I found a box hidden in his closet documents, old photos, a birth certificate that said, Father unknown, everything he had never told me. Why do you think his mother, his adoptive mother, didn't tell him? I don't know, I admitted. Grace died 5 years ago. I never had the chance to ask her. But I think maybe she was afraid of losing him. Afraid that if he knew the truth, he would want to look for his biological family. Or maybe she didn't know the whole story herself. Robert leaned back in his chair, running his hands through his hair, a gesture Harry made when he was stressed. I don't even know what to think. I know. Neither do I. My whole life I thought I was alone in the world, he said with a cracking voice. That I had no blood family, that no one wanted to keep me. And now you tell me I had a brother, a twin brother, and that he's already dead, that I'm never going to be able to meet him. The tears finally rolled down his cheeks. He didn't try to wipe them away. I reached my hand across the table. He took it. In that moment, he wasn't a stranger. He was Harry's brother. He was family. I'm sorry, I said. I'm so sorry you both went through this, that you were separated, that you never had the chance to know each other. Robert squeezed my hand. What was he like? Harry? What was he like as a person? I smiled through my own tears. He was good, so good, hardworking. He loved his garden. He spent hours on Sundays watering his plants, pruning his rose bushes. I laughed softly. He always said plants don't judge you, that they only need water, sun, and patience. I like gardening too, Robert said with surprise. I have a small garden at my house. I grow tomatoes, peppers, herbs. Harry grew tomatoes, I said, astonished. Seriously? Yes. Every year he planted tomatoes, and we always had too many. He gave them away to the neighbors. Robert laughed, a sad but genuine laugh. I do the same thing. My neighbors know that in summer they're going to get bags of tomatoes. We sat in silence, absorbing that small connection, that invisible thread that had united two brothers who never met. Did he have children? Robert asked. 2, Sarah and Mike. They're adults now. Sarah is 30, she's a lawyer. Mike is 28, an engineer. They both live here in the city. Have you told them about me? Not yet. I wanted to be sure first. I paused. I wanted to meet you first. Robert nodded. And you? I asked. Do you have family? Something crossed his face. Sadness. I was married, Robert said slowly. 16 years. But we divorced 8 years ago. It was hard. We couldn't have children. We tried for years treatments, doctors. Nothing worked. And that destroyed us. She blamed me. I blamed myself. In the end, there was nothing left between us but resentment. I'm sorry. Me too. He shrugged. After the divorce, I focused on my work. I'm an accountant. I have my own small office. I work from home most of the time, and that's it. My life is simple, quiet. Sometimes too quiet. I looked at this man in front of me, this man who shared the same DNA as Harry, who had his same quirks, his same passions, his same loneliness, because Harry also felt lonely sometimes, even if he never admitted it. I saw it in his eyes when he thought I wasn't looking. That sadness of someone who feels something is missing but doesn't know what. Maybe it was this. Maybe it was that brother he never knew, that half of himself that was torn away before he could even remember. We need more answers, I said finally. We need to know what really happened, why you were separated. If your biological mother is still alive, why Grace adopted only Harry and not both of you. How are we going to find that out? Robert asked. You said yourself the records are sealed. Then we'll get a court order. Or we'll look for someone who worked at that orphanage. Someone has to remember, someone has to know. Robert looked at me with a mix of hope and fear. Why are you doing this? I'm a stranger to you. Because my husband deserves for us to know the truth, I said firmly. And because you deserve to know your story. And because my voice broke. Because when I saw you in that supermarket, for a moment, Harry was alive again. And I know it sounds selfish, but I'm not ready to let him go completely yet. Robert nodded slowly. I understand. I'm not ready to let go of the possibility of having had a brother either. We sat there for another hour sharing stories. He told me about his childhood in Cleveland, where he grew up, about how his dad taught him to ride a bike, about how his mom sang lullabies to him when he was sick. I told him about Harry, about how we met at a party when we were 24, about our small wedding in a downtown church, about our children, about 32 years of marriage that went by too fast. And while we talked, I started to see not just Harry and Robert, but Robert himself. A kind man, a lonely man, a man who had spent his whole life feeling he was missing something without knowing what it was. Maybe I could give him that. Maybe I could give him the family he never knew he had. And maybe he could give me something too. Not a replacement for Harry. No one could replace him. But maybe a connection. A reason to keep going. A way to keep my husband's memory alive. When we finally stood up to leave, it was already dark outside. Can I have your phone number? I asked. To keep you informed of what I find, and to talk, I guess. Robert smiled. That smile of Harry's that melted my heart. I would like that. We exchanged numbers. We walked out of the supermarket together. He walked toward an old but well-maintained car, a blue 2010 Nissan. Before getting in, he turned to me. Thank you, he said, for not thinking I'm crazy, for believing me, for wanting to know the truth. Thank you, I replied, for not running away when that hysterical woman chased you through the supermarket. We both laughed, a soft laugh that alleviated some of the weight of everything we had discovered. I watched him drive away, and as I watched his taillights disappear into traffic, I touched my wedding ring. Harry, I thought, I don't know if this is a sign from you or just a cruel coincidence of the universe, but I found your brother, and I'm going to find out what happened to you both. I promise. The wind blew softly, moving the leaves of the trees in the parking lot. And for a moment, just for a moment, I felt as if Harry were there with me, telling me I was doing the right thing, telling me to keep going, telling me I wasn't alone. Over the next 3 days, Robert and I texted constantly. At first, it was simple things. Good morning, good night, how was your day? But then they started to get deeper. He sent me photos of his garden, green tomatoes hanging from the vines, jalapeno peppers, basil growing in pots. I sent him photos of Harry, of our wedding, of our children when they were small, of the garden Harry had cultivated for years. And in every photo, Robert saw something familiar, a posture, an expression, a way of smiling. It's like seeing a life I could have had, he texted me one night. It's like seeing a version of my husband I never knew, I replied. On Thursday morning, he called me. I found something, he said without even saying hello. His voice sounded shaky. I was going through my things, looking for the adoption file they gave me 20 years ago, and I found the note. The one my biological mother left. Do you have it there? Yes. I've been reading it over and over. And there's something I didn't see before. What is it? Can I come to your house? I need to show you this in person. My heart beat faster. Of course. Yes, come whenever you want. Does in an hour work? Perfect. I hung up the phone with trembling hands. An hour. In an hour, I was going to have Robert here, in the house I shared with Harry, in the space that had been ours for more than 30 years. Was I ready for that? I didn't know. But I needed to know what he had found. I spent that hour obsessively cleaning, even though the house was already clean. I put away the photos of Harry I had in the living room, then I took them out again, then I put them away again. It was weird to have photos of my dead husband when his twin brother was coming over. It was weird not to have them. In the end, I left them where they had always been. Harry was my husband, this was his house, and I wasn't going to hide that. When the doorbell rang, I almost jumped off the couch. I opened the door. There was Robert, in jeans and a white shirt, holding an old manila envelope in his hands. Hi, he said softly. Hi. Come in. He entered slowly, looking around. I knew he was seeing the house where his brother lived, where his brother died. It's nice, he said. Thank you. Would you like coffee? Please. We went to the kitchen. I made coffee while he sat at the table, the same table where Harry and I ate breakfast every morning for years. I poured his cup. I sat across from him. What did you find? I asked. Robert opened the envelope, took out a carefully folded yellowish paper, and put it on the table between us. This is the note, he said. I leaned in to read it. The handwriting was shaky, feminine, from someone who had been crying while writing. It read, Please take care of my baby. I can't give him what he deserves. His father wants nothing to do with us. My family has kicked me out of the house. I have no job, no money. I'm barely 17 years old, and I don't know how I'm going to survive myself, let alone take care of a child. Please give him a good family. A family that loves him. A family that gives him everything I can't. His name is Robert. Please don't change it. It's the only thing I can leave him. God bless you for taking care of him. G.M. I read the note 3 times. G.M., I said finally. Do you have any idea who that could be? When they gave me this note 20 years ago, the woman at the records office told me the initials probably corresponded to Grace Miller. That was the name that appeared on some orphanage documents as the mother who had left me there. Grace Miller. The maiden name of Harry's mom. Oh my God, I whispered. But here is what I didn't understand until now, Robert said, pointing to the note. It says, my baby, singular. It doesn't say, my babies. It doesn't mention there were 2. Maybe she didn't know she was having twins. That's what I thought too. But then I looked at this. He pulled another paper from the envelope. It was a copy of his birth certificate. My date of birth is the 15th of August, 1967. But look at the time. It says I was born at 2:30 p.m. at Cook County Hospital in Chicago. I took out my phone, opened the photos of Harry's box. I found his birth certificate. Harry says he was born the 15th of August, 1967, at 2:15 p.m., at the same hospital. Robert nodded slowly. 15 minutes difference. That means the doctors knew there were 2. That Grace knew there were 2. So why does the note only mention 1? That is the question, Robert said with a tense voice. Why does a mother who leaves her babies at an orphanage only write about one of them? We sat in silence thinking, and then, slowly, A terrible idea began to form in my mind. What if she didn't leave both? I said softly. Robert looked at me. What do you mean? What if she only left one? What if she kept the other? I saw his face change as the understanding hit him. Harry, he whispered. She kept Harry and left me. The words hung in the air between us, heavy, painful. Robert got up from the table, started pacing the kitchen, running his hands through his hair, that gesture of Harry's when he was upset. Why? He asked with a broken voice. Why would she keep one and leave the other? How does a mother do that? I don't know, I said, feeling my own tears. I don't know. Grace was 17, he continued, his voice rising. Alone, no family, no money. And she decided she could take care of a baby, but not two. How did she make that decision? How did she choose? Maybe she didn't have a choice, I said gently. Maybe she thought it was the only way to survive. But she chose, he shouted. Then he stopped, breathing hard. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have yelled. It's okay. You have a right to be angry. He collapsed into the chair with his head in his hands. My whole life I thought my mother hadn't wanted me, that she had abandoned me because she didn't want me. And now I discover she abandoned me because she wanted me less than my brother. We don't know that, I said, though even I didn't believe my own words. What else can it be? He looked up with red eyes. She chose Harry. She kept him. She raised him. She loved him. And me, she left me with a note at an orphanage. I didn't know what to say. There were no words that could fix this. I need to find her, he said finally. I need to find Grace Miller. I need to ask her why. Grace died 5 years ago, I reminded him. Are you sure it was the same person? Harry's mom. I paused, thinking. The truth was, I wasn't completely sure. Harry always called his mom Grace. I have photos of her, I said. From when she was young. I found them in Harry's box. You can see them. I went to my bedroom, got the box, came back with the photos. Robert took it with trembling hands. It's her, he whispered. It's the woman from my dream. What? I have a recurring dream, he explained without taking his eyes off the photo. I've had it since I was a child. I dream of a young woman holding me, singing to me, crying. I never see her face clearly, but I feel that she loves me, that she doesn't want to let me go. His tears fell onto the photo. It's her. I know it's her. I put my hand on his shoulder. Robert, where is she buried? He asked abruptly. Grace, where is her grave? At Oakwood Cemetery. I want to go. I need to see her, even if it's just her grave. I looked at this broken man in front of me, this man who had just discovered that the mother he thought never wanted him had actually loved him enough to give him a chance at a better life. Or maybe not. Maybe she could only save one and chose the other. The truth was, we didn't know. And maybe we never would. I'll take you, I said. We'll go together tomorrow. He nodded, wiping his tears. Thank you. He stayed a while longer. We drank more coffee. We talked about lighter things. I showed him more photos of Harry, photos of his children, of our life, and little by little, I saw Robert calm down, saw the pain turn into a more manageable sadness. When he finally left, it was already night. I walked him to the door. See you tomorrow, I said. Yes, tomorrow. He paused. Rachel, thank you for this. For helping me, for not treating me like I'm crazy. You're not crazy, you're hurt. There's a difference. He smiled sadly. Harry was lucky to have you. I was lucky to have him. I watched him drive away again, and as I closed the door, I felt something strange in my chest. It wasn't the sharp pain of loss I had felt for 6 months. It was something different. Something almost like hope. Hope that maybe, just maybe, something good could come out of all this pain. That night, before sleeping, I sat on the bed with the photo of young Grace holding a baby. I looked at it for a long time. Why did you do it? I whispered to the photo. Why did you separate them? Was it necessity? Love? Desperation? The photo, of course, didn't answer. But somewhere in my heart, I wanted to believe that Grace had done the best she could, that she had loved her 2 sons, and that leaving one had been the most painful decision of her life. A decision she took to the grave without ever telling Harry the truth. I touched my wedding ring. Tomorrow I would take Robert to meet his mother, even if it was 57 years too late, even if it was just a headstone with a name. It was something. And sometimes, something is better than nothing. Friday dawned cloudy. I woke up early, before the sun rose. I hadn't slept well. All night I dreamed of crying babies, of a young woman who had to choose, of two identical boys in separate cribs. I got up, made coffee, and sat in the kitchen waiting for 9 a.m. That was the time I had agreed to pick up Robert. At 8:30, my phone rang. It was Sarah, my daughter. "Mom, are you okay?" she asked without saying hello. "I called you 3 times last night and you didn't answer." I felt guilty. I had been so absorbed in all this that I had ignored my calls. "Sorry, sweetie, I was busy." "Busy with what, Mom? You're worrying me. You've been acting strange for a week." I took a deep breath. I had to tell them. Sarah and Mike. They had a right to know their father had a twin brother. "Can you come to the house tonight?" I asked. "Bring Mike. I need to tell you something important." "Are you sick?" Her voice sounded alarmed. No, it's not that. It's about your dad." "About Dad?" "I discovered something. Something you need to know." There was silence. "What is it?" "I'll explain everything tonight. Can you both come at 7? "Okay," she said, still sounding worried. "We'll be there." I hung up just as the doorbell rang. Robert had arrived. I opened the door. He was dressed in black slacks, black shirt as if he were going to a funeral. Maybe he was, in a sense. "Good morning," he said. His voice sounded tired. He had dark circles under his eyes. It was obvious he hadn't slept either. "Good morning. Do you want a coffee before we go?" "No, thanks. If you don't mind, I prefer to go now." "Sure. Let me get my keys." The drive to the cemetery took 20 minutes. We went in my car. Robert sat in the passenger seat, staring out the window without saying anything. I didn't speak either. What do you say in a moment like that? When we arrived at the cemetery, I parked near the entrance. There were few people. An older gentleman putting flowers on a grave, a young woman praying in front of a headstone, an elderly couple walking slowly along the paths. "It's this way," I said, guiding Robert. We walked in silence along the cobblestone path. We passed rows and rows of graves' names, dates, photos, entire lives, summarized on marble slabs. Finally, we arrived. The grave of Grace Miller Carson was simple. A gray granite headstone with her name, her date of birth, and her date of death. And a phrase Harry had chosen, "Beloved mother, rest in peace." Robert stood in front of the grave, motionless. I stayed a few steps back, giving him space. For long minutes, nothing happened. He just stared at the headstone, hands in pockets, jaw clenched, and then he spoke. "Hi," he said softly. "I'm Robert, your son, the one you left." His voice broke on the last word. "I don't know if you can hear me. I don't know if it matters after so many years, but I need to say this." He took a deep breath. "I need you to know that I had a good life, that my adoptive parents loved me, that I was happy, that I don't hate you for leaving me." The tears started to roll down his cheeks. "But I need you to know that it hurt. My whole life. It hurt not knowing why I wasn't enough. Why did you keep Harry and not me? What did he have that I didn't?" He knelt in front of the grave. "Now, I know it probably wasn't your fault, that you were very young, that you were alone, that maybe you thought it was the only way. But it still hurts. It hurts knowing I never met you, that I could never ask you why, that I never had the chance to tell you I understand, or that I forgive you, or that I love you. Anyway, I was crying now too, silently, standing behind him. I met Rachel," Robert continued, "Harry's wife. She's a good person. She's treated me with kindness. She helped me understand. And she showed me photos of you when you were young. I saw the photo of the orphanage. I saw how you held that baby. I saw the love in your eyes." He wiped his tears with the back of his hand. "I want to believe you held me like that too, even if for a day, even if for a few hours. I want to believe you loved me before letting me go." He stayed kneeling there in silence for what seemed like hours, but were probably just minutes. Finally, he stood up and turned toward me. "Thank you for bringing me," he said. "You don't have to thank me." "Do you think she knew?" Robert asked. Do you think she knew Harry never found out he had a brother? I don't know, I admitted. Maybe. Maybe she planned to tell him someday and never found the right moment. Or maybe she decided it was better he didn't know, that it would be more painful to know he had lost a brother he never met. Robert nodded slowly. Harry was happy, right? In his life, he was happy. Yes, I said with certainty. He was very happy. He loved his children. He loved me. He loved his work, his garden, his quiet life. He wasn't perfect, but he was happy. That's good. I'm glad at least one of us had that. You can have that too, I said gently. He looked at me. How? I'm alone. No family. No. But you're not alone anymore, I interrupted. You have a niece and nephew, Sarah and Mike. They have a right to meet their uncle, and you have a right to have family. They know about me? I'm going to tell them. Tonight, they're coming to my house, and I would like you to be there so they can meet you. Robert stayed silent, processing this. Are you sure? I don't want to impose on your family. You're not imposing. You're part of this family. You always were, even if no one knew it. He nodded, eyes shining with new tears. But this time they weren't tears of pain. They were of something else, something that looked like hope. We stayed a little longer at the cemetery. I knelt in front of Grace's grave and spoke to her too. Hi, Grace, I said softly. I know Harry loved you. He always spoke of you with such affection. He said you were the best mother in the world, and I think you were. You did what you thought was right. And thanks to you, Harry had a beautiful life. I paused. But Robert deserves to be remembered too. He deserves to be part of this story. So I'm going to make sure he is. I promise you. I put fresh flowers on the grave, yellow roses, Grace's favorites according to Harry. When we left the cemetery, the sun had come out. The clouds had cleared a bit. Are you hungry? I asked. I know a place nearby that makes delicious pancakes. Robert smiled. A small but genuine smile. I'd love that. We went to a small diner that Harry and I used to frequent. It hurt a little to enter without him, but it also felt good to bring Robert, as if it were a way to keep the connection alive. We ordered pancakes, scrambled eggs, bacon, coffee, and while we ate, we talked not about heavy things, not about Grace or secrets or pain. We talked about simple things, about his work as an accountant, about my years as a teacher before retiring, about his plants, about my grandkids. And I realized something. I liked Robert. Not just because he looked like Harry, not just because he was his brother, but because he was a good person, kind, thoughtful, with a dry sense of humor that came out when he felt comfortable. You know, he said at some point during the meal, when I saw you for the first time in that supermarket, I thought you were crazy, a woman crying and screaming that I was her dead husband. It was terrifying. I laughed. I must have looked like a lunatic. I'm sorry about that. Don't be, he said with a smile. If you hadn't done that, if you had been calmer, I probably would have run away and never discovered all this. That's true. Sometimes crazy things are what we need to do. We finished eating and ordered more coffee. We were in no hurry to leave. It was nice to be there in that little corner of the world, without pressures or expectations. What time do you want me to come to your house tonight? He asked finally. At 7. Sarah and Mike are arriving then. Are you nervous? Very, I admitted. I don't know how they'll react. This is a lot to process. For you, it's been a lot too, Robert pointed out. And you've handled it incredibly well. I don't know if incredibly well is the right description. I've cried every day of the last week. But you kept going. You investigated. You found me. You helped me. That requires a lot of strength. His words warmed my heart. Thank you, I said softly. No, thank you. For everything. We sat looking at each other across the table, and in that moment I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. It wasn't romantic attraction, not yet. It was connection, understanding, the feeling that someone really sees you and accepts what they see. We paid the bill and left the diner. The sun was shining completely now. It was a beautiful day. See you at 7 then, I said when we got to where his car was parked. At 7, he confirmed. And Rachel, yes, thank you for everything. For this day. For making me feel like I belong somewhere. You always belonged, I said. just that no one had realized it. I watched him drive away, and as I drove back home, I thought about everything that had happened in the last week. A week ago, I was alone in my empty house, drowning in my grief for Harry. Now I had Robert. I had a mystery to solve. I had a reason to get up every morning. It wasn't the same as having Harry back. Nothing could replace that. But it was something. And like I had told Robert, sometimes something is better than nothing. That afternoon, I prepared the house for the meeting. I cleaned, made coffee, put out cookies. I took out all the photos, the ones from Harry's box, Grace's photos, the birth certificates, Grace's note. Everything was going to come to light tonight, and I didn't know how my children were going to react. I only knew they deserved the truth, the whole truth, even if it hurt. I still wonder if I did the right thing by seeking answers. What would you have done in my place? At 7 sharp, the doorbell rang. It was Sarah and Mike. I opened the door and there were my 2 children. Sarah in her lawyer suit, just off work, Mike in jeans and a casual shirt, his engineer uniform. "Mom," Sarah said, hugging me. "You had us so worried." "I know, sweetie. Come in. Sit down. I'm going to explain everything." They went into the living room, sat on the sofa, side by side, looking at me with concern. "What's wrong, Mom?" Mike asked. "Sarah told me you discovered something about Dad." I took a deep breath. "Where to start?" "A week ago," I began, "I went to the supermarket, and I saw someone who I thought was your father." Sarah frowned. "What do you mean you saw Dad?" "Mom, Dad died 6 months ago." I know. But this man was identical to him. The same face, the same voice, the same scar on his eyebrow. Mike and Sarah looked at each other worriedly. "Mom," Mike said gently, "have you been taking your medication? Have you been to your therapy appointments?" "I'm not crazy," I said firmly. "And I'm not hallucinating. This man is real, and it turns out he is your father's twin brother." Silence. Sarah was the first to speak. "What?" "Your father had a twin brother. His name is Robert, and we never knew about him because they were separated at birth. Harry was adopted by your grandmother, Grace, and Robert was adopted by another family." "That's impossible," Sarah said, standing up. "Dad would have told us. Grandma would have told us." "Grandma never told your father he was adopted," I explained. "I found documents hidden in your father's closet. Birth certificates, photos from the orphanage, a note from his biological mother." "Let me see," Sarah demanded, her lawyer instinct taking control. I went to the dining room table where I had put everything. I brought the box, placed it in front of them. Mike and Sarah started going through the documents. I saw their faces change from skepticism to confusion, from confusion to astonishment. "Oh my God," Mike whispered, looking at the birth certificate. "It's true. Dad was adopted." "And this Robert?" Sarah asked. "Where is he?" "Did you meet him?" "Yes, I met him. We've been talking all week, investigating, trying to understand what happened." "And what happened?" Mike asked. I told them everything about Grace Miller, about how she had twins at 17, about how she apparently kept Harry and left Robert at the orphanage, about the note, about the grave. When I finished, both were silent. Sarah couldn't find words. "It's too much." "I know. Why did he never tell us?" Mike asked with a broken voice. "Why did Dad never tell us he was adopted?" "Because he never knew," I said softly. "Grandma never told him, and when she died, the secret died with her. Until now." "Until now," Sarah said. The doorbell rang again. We all turned toward the door. "That must be Robert," I said. "I asked him to come so you could meet him." "Now," Sarah exclaimed. "Mom, this is too fast. We haven't even processed." "I know. But he's so alone. And you are his family. The only family he has left." I went to open the door. Robert was there with a bag in his hands, looking nervous. "Hi," he said. "I brought pie. I didn't know if it was appropriate, but—" "It's perfect," I said, smiling. "Come in." I led him to the living room. I saw the exact moment my children saw Robert for the first time, the shock on their faces, the disbelief, the recognition, because there was an exact copy of their father standing in their living room. "Oh my God," Sarah whispered. You're identical to Dad," Mike finished, standing up. Robert stood there uncomfortably, not knowing what to do. "Hi," he said finally. "I'm Robert, and I know this is very strange for you. It is for me too." There was a long silence. Then Sarah walked toward him. She looked at him closely, studied his face, the scar, the eyes, everything. "You have his smile," she said with tears in her eyes. "Dad's same smile when he was nervous." "Really?" "Yes." She wiped her tears. I don't know what to think." "I understand," Robert said. "If you want me to leave." "No," Mike said suddenly, approaching too. "No. Stay. We need to talk. To know you. To understand all this." We all sat in the living room. I served coffee, cut the pie Robert had brought, and we started talking. At first it was awkward, basic questions. "What do you do? Where do you live? Are you married?" But little by little the questions became deeper. "What was it like growing up not knowing you had a brother?" Sarah asked. Robert thought before answering. "Lonely," he said finally. "I always felt something was missing, like there was a hole in my life I couldn't explain. My adoptive parents were incredible, don't get me wrong. But there was something, a connection I didn't have with anyone." "Dad said something similar sometimes," Mike said quietly. "When he drank a little too much at Christmas, he said sometimes he felt as if he had left something important behind, like he had forgotten something." "Mom, do you remember?" I nodded. I remembered. Harry had those moments of inexplicable melancholy. "Maybe we felt each other," Robert said. "Maybe on some deep level we knew we were missing the other." "Twins have that," said Sarah, who had started Googling on her phone. "There are studies on twins separated at birth. Many report feeling an inexplicable connection, similar dreams, similar tastes, even physical pain at the same time." "Seriously?" Robert asked. "Yes, it's fascinating." Sarah looked at him with renewed curiosity. "Do you have any allergies to seafood?" "Dad too," Mike said. "He was allergic to shrimp. Once his whole face swelled up in a restaurant." "The same thing happened to me when I was 22, Robert said. "I ate shrimp cocktail at a wedding and ended up in the hospital." "And your coffee?" Sarah asked. "How do you take it?" "Black with a little sugar." "Like Dad," Sarah and Mike said at the same time. Robert laughed, a laugh that sounded exactly like Harry's. "This is very weird," he said, "but it's also amazing." "Do you have photos of when you were a child?" Mike asked. "I'd like to see them." "Yes, I brought some." Robert took out his phone. "I thought maybe you'd want to see." He passed the phone. Sarah and Mike looked at the photos. I got closer too. There was Robert as a child, 5 years old, smiling with 2 missing teeth. "Oh my God," Sarah said. "It's identical to this photo of Dad." She went to a shelf and grabbed a framed picture. It was a photo of Harry at the same age, 5 years old, smiling with 2 missing teeth. We put them side by side. They were indistinguishable. "How is it possible you never met?" Mike said, shaking his head. 57 years living in the same country, maybe in the same city, and you never crossed paths." "Until now," Robert said softly, looking at me. "Mom was always half detective," Mike said with a small smile. "When we were kids and did something bad, she always found out who it was. She said she had a sixth sense." "It wasn't a sixth sense," I said. "It was just paying attention." "Well, I'm glad you paid attention this time," Sarah said. She looked at Robert, "because now we have an uncle we never knew we had." "An uncle," Robert repeated with a trembling voice. "Well, what else would you be?" Sarah said practically. "You're Dad's brother. That makes you our uncle." I saw Robert's eyes fill with tears. "I never thought I would have nieces and nephews." "Well, now you have 2, Mike said. "And soon 3. My wife is pregnant. She's having a boy in 4 months." "Seriously?" Robert wiped his tears. "Congratulations." "Thanks. And now that baby is going to have a great uncle we never knew existed." We all laughed. It was a laugh mixed with tears, but it was genuine. We spent the next 3 hours talking, comparing stories, finding similarities, filling the voids. Robert told them about his divorce, about his job, about his garden. Sarah and Mike told him about their lives, their jobs, their partners, their plans. And I sat there watching this impossible scene, feeling something I hadn't felt in 6 months. Peace. It wasn't the peace of having overcome the pain. The pain was still there, probably would always be there, but it was the peace of knowing something good had come out of all this. That Harry, even though he was gone, had left a legacy not only in his children but in this brother he never knew. "You know what we should do?" Sarah said suddenly. "We should get a DNA test to confirm officially." "That's a good idea," Robert said. "To be 100% sure." "I'm already sure," Mike said. "But yeah, let's do it for the records." "And afterward," continued Sarah, "we should have a family dinner. A big one, with everyone. You, Uncle Robert, your wife Mike, my boyfriend, everyone." "I would love that," Robert said. "Me too," I said. When it was finally time to leave, it was almost 11 p.m. I couldn't believe how much time had passed. Sarah hugged Robert at the door. "I'm glad Mom found you," she said. "Dad would have wanted us to know each other." "I'm glad too," Robert said, returning the hug. Mike hugged him next. "Welcome to the family, Uncle Robert." Those words made Robert cry again, but they were good tears this time. When my children left and only Robert and I remained, we sat in the living room in silence for a moment. "Thank you," he said finally. "For this, for giving me a family. You don't have to thank me. This was always your family, just that now we know. Your children are incredible. I know. Harry and I were very lucky." "Harry was very lucky in general," Robert said. "He had a mother who loved him, a wife who adored him, wonderful children, a full life." He paused. "Sometimes it hurts to think about everything he had and I didn't. But now you have it," I said softly. "Now you have a niece and nephew who want you. You have a family. You have a place where you belong. Thanks to you." "No," I said. "Thanks to fate, or God, or whatever made me see you in that supermarket. I just followed my instinct." Robert stood up. I did too. At the door, he turned to me. "Can I hug you?" he asked. "I know it's weird, but—" "It's not weird," I said, opening my arms. We hugged, and for a moment, with my eyes closed, I allowed myself to imagine it was Harry, that it was my husband saying goodbye one more time. But when I opened my eyes, it was Robert. And that was okay too. "Good night, Rachel." "Good night, Robert." I watched him walk away, and when I closed the door, I leaned against it and cried. I cried for Harry, for Robert, for Grace, for all the lost years, for all the connections never made. But I also cried with relief, because for the first time since Harry died, I felt I had done something important, something that mattered. I had reunited a family that never knew it was broken, and in the process, I had found something for myself too. Not a replacement for Harry, never that, but maybe a friend, a connection, a reason to keep going. That night, before sleeping, I looked at Harry's photo on my nightstand. "I found him," I whispered. "I found your brother. And he's a good person, my love. You would have liked him." I touched the photo gently. "I wish you were here to meet him. I wish things had been different." The silence of the house answered me. But it wasn't such a heavy silence anymore, because now I knew I wasn't completely alone. That there was a part of Harry still in this world, walking, breathing, living. And that was enough for now. The following weeks were strange. Good, but strange. Robert started coming to the house regularly. At first, it was once a week. Sundays became our tradition. I cooked, he brought dessert, and we spent the afternoon together. Sometimes Sarah and Mike came too. Sometimes it was just the two of us. And slowly, very slowly, I began to know Robert. Not as Harry's brother, but as Robert. I discovered he liked reading mystery novels, that he collected vinyl records of classical music, that he had learned to play guitar when he was young but had given it up after the divorce. "Why did you quit?" I asked him one Sunday while we washed dishes together. "Because she hated the sound," he said with a sad smile. "She said it gave her a headache. So I put the guitar in the closet and never took it out again." "That's sad. Many things in that marriage were sad." He shrugged. "But it's over. It doesn't matter anymore." "The guitar is still in the closet?" "You should take it out," I said. "Life is too short not to do the things you love." I knew that well. Harry died at 57, just when we were planning our retirement, just when we were going to start traveling, doing all those things we always said we would do someday. The someday never came. "You're right," Robert said thoughtfully. "Maybe I should." 2 days later, he sent me a video. It was him playing the guitar, an old song, Moon River. Harry loved that song. I replied. Beautiful. Your brother would have loved hearing you play, he replied. Maybe in some way he did hear me. I liked thinking that Harry was somewhere watching all this and was happy his brother and I had found each other. A month after the day he met Sarah and Mike, Robert invited me to his house for the first time. He lived in a small house on the outskirts of the city, nothing fancy, but well-maintained, with a garden in front full of plants. Your garden is beautiful, I said when I arrived. Thanks, it's my therapy. He showed me his tomatoes. They were huge and red. Look, these are heirloom variety. I planted them 3 months ago. Harry planted heirlooms too, I said, touching one of the plants. He said they tasted better than the ones from the supermarket. He was right. You have to taste them. He cut 2 ripe tomatoes. We're going to use them for lunch. He invited me in. The inside of the house was simple. Functional furniture, but without much decoration. Few pictures on the walls. Few photos. It was the house of someone who lived alone and didn't receive many visitors. Sorry for the mess, he said, though there was no mess. Everything was clean and tidy. It's perfect, I said. He made us lunch pasta with tomatoes from his garden, fresh basil, olive oil, simple but delicious. We ate at his small kitchen table, overlooking the garden through the window. Do you feel lonely here? I asked without thinking. Then I regretted it. Sorry, I shouldn't have. No, it's okay, he interrupted me. Yes, sometimes I feel lonely, especially at night. But I got used to it. After the divorce, I preferred being alone to being with someone who made me feel worse. I understood that. I knew widows who had remarried quickly because they couldn't stand the loneliness, but I could never imagine myself with someone other than Harry. And you? Robert asked. Do you feel lonely in your house all the time? I admit, the house is too big for one person. Too many memories. Too many empty spaces. Have you thought about selling? Moving to something smaller? Sarah suggested it. But I can't. That house is where Harry lived, where we raised our children. Selling it would feel like betraying him. Robert nodded. I understand. I felt that way about my wedding ring. After the divorce, I took it off, but I kept it in a drawer. I couldn't throw it away. It was like throwing away 8 years of my life. Even if those years weren't happy, they were still mine. Do you still have it? Yes. In a box along with other things I don't know what to do with. Photos, letters, memories of a life that doesn't exist anymore. We sat in silence for a moment. 2 people carrying their own pains, their own losses. You know what's hardest? He said finally. It's not the loneliness itself. It's not having someone to share the little things with, like when you make a joke and there's no one to laugh, or when you cook something good and there's no one to taste it, or when you see something interesting on the street and turn to comment on it, but there's no one there. Yes, I whispered, exactly that. Harry was lucky to have you, Robert said, looking at me, to have someone to share all that with for 32 years. I was lucky to have him. After lunch, Robert showed me the rest of his house, his small office where he worked, his simple bedroom, and in a back room, his music room. There was his collection of vinyls, hundreds of them organized alphabetically, and in the corner, on a stand, his guitar. I took it out, he said, touching it gently. After your message. I cleaned it, changed the strings. I've been playing again. I'm glad. Do you want to play something? I'd love to. He sat down and started playing another old song, Can't Help Falling in Love. I closed my eyes and listened, and for a moment I felt as if Harry were there with me. Not literally, not as a ghost or spirit, but in the music, in his brother's hands playing those strings, in the memory of all the times Harry and I danced to that song in our living room. When he finished playing, I had tears in my eyes. I'm sorry, I said, wiping them away. It's just that song was special to you and Harry. Yes, we danced to that song at our wedding. Robert put the guitar aside. He sat next to me on the small sofa in the music room. Rachel, there's something I've wanted to ask you, but I haven't known how. What is it? Is it okay? He asked softly. That I'm here? That we formed this friendship? Doesn't it feel like you're replacing Harry? I thought carefully before answering. At first, I admitted, I felt guilty. As if being with you was betraying his memory. Because you look so much like him. You sound so much like him. Sometimes, when I'm not paying attention, For a second, I think you're him. I know, I've noticed. But, I continued, little by little I've realized you aren't Harry, you're Robert. And even though you look alike, you are different. You are quieter, more introspective, more musical. Harry was more practical, more direct, more earthy. And it's okay that it's different. It's more than okay, I said. Because I don't want a replacement for Harry. No one could replace him. But I do want. I searched for the right words. I do want a friend. Someone who understands. Someone to share the little things with. Robert smiled. That Harry smile that melted my heart, but which I was now beginning to recognize as Robert's too. I want that too, he said. And I can be that friend for you, if you let me. You already are. We sat there in that little music room, surrounded by vinyls and memories, two lonely people who had found mutual comfort. It wasn't romance. Not yet. But it was something. It was connection. It was company. It was the promise that neither of us had to be alone. 2 weeks later, Robert invited me to a concert. It was a symphony orchestra playing Beethoven and Mozart, classical music, something Harry had never enjoyed, but I always wanted to hear live. You don't have to come if you don't want to, he said when he proposed it. I know maybe it's weird, but I have 2 tickets, and I thought, I'd love to go, I said without hesitation. The night of the concert, I dressed with more care than I had in months. I wore a navy blue dress Harry had given me years ago, but which I rarely wore. I put on light makeup, did my hair. When I saw myself in the mirror, I almost didn't recognize myself. I had been so lost in my grief for 6 months that I had forgotten myself, forgotten the woman I was besides being Harry's widow. Robert arrived on time. He was wearing a gray suit. He looked handsome. I couldn't help thinking it. You look beautiful, he said when I opened the door. Thank you. You look very nice too. Ready? Ready. The concert was magical. The music filled the theater, wrapping everyone in its beauty. I got lost in the notes, the crescendos, the passion of the musicians. Robert was sitting next to me, completely absorbed too. Occasionally, our hands touched on the shared armrest, and we didn't move. We let ourselves be. During intermission, we walked through the theater lobby. What did you think? He asked. Incredible. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for coming. He paused. I had forgotten how nice it is to share something like this with someone. Me too. We looked at each other. And in that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. A spark. Small, almost imperceptible. But there it was. It wasn't guilt. It wasn't betrayal. It was just possibility. The possibility that maybe, just maybe, life hadn't ended when Harry died. The possibility that maybe there was still joy to be found, moments to live, connections to make. Not now, not yet, but someday. Maybe. After the concert, Robert drove me home. At the door, before saying goodbye, he said, Rachel, there's something I want you to know. What? These last 2 months since I met you have been the best of my life in a long time, and not because you look like the wife of my brother, or because you're my connection to the brother I never knew. It's because you're you, because you're kind and strong and genuine, and I feel lucky to have met you. My heart beat faster. I feel lucky to have met you too, Robert. He smiled. Good. I just wanted you to know. Robert, you don't have to say anything, he interrupted gently. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know how I feel. I nodded without words. Good night, Rachel. Good night, Robert. I watched him drive away, and when I entered my house, I sat on the sofa and touched my wedding ring. The ring I had worn for 32 years. The ring that promised eternal love. Harry, I whispered to the empty air. I don't know what to do. I don't know if it's okay to feel what I'm starting to feel. I don't know if I'm betraying you or if this is what you would have wanted for me. The silence answered me as always. But in my heart, I felt that Harry would understand. That he wouldn't want me to spend the rest of my life alone crying for him, living in the past. He would want me to be happy. And maybe, just maybe, Robert could be part of that happiness. Not as a replacement, never that, but as a new beginning. A second chance, an unexpected gift from the universe. Or maybe a gift from Harry himself, sending me his brother when I needed him most. I didn't know for sure. But I was starting to believe it was okay not to know. that it was okay to simply let myself feel and see where the path led me. 3 months after that night at the concert, I received a call that changed everything again. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I was in the garden pruning Harry's rose bushes when my phone rang, an unknown number from Chicago. "Hello, Mrs. Rachel Carson?" asked an older female voice. "Yes, this is she. My name is Sister Catherine. I'm calling from the convent of the Sisters of Charity in Chicago. I work with the historical records of St. Mary's Home for Children." My heart accelerated. "Yes. How can I help you?" "Well, it's actually I who can help you. A few months ago, someone from social services contacted me saying you had been looking for information about an adoption from 1967, the Miller twins." "Yes," I said, almost breathless. "Yes, I've been looking for information. I found something you might want to see. Could you come to Chicago? There are documents I can't send by mail. They need to be seen in person." "What? What kind of documents?" "Letters from Grace Miller. She wrote several letters before she died. They are in our archive. They were never delivered because, well, I'll explain that when you come." "I'll be there," I said without thinking. "When can I come?" "Whenever you like. I'm here every day. I'll come this weekend." "Perfect. I'll expect you here, Mrs. Carson." I hung up with trembling hands. Letters. Grace had written letters. Immediately I called Robert. "They found something," I said as soon as he answered. "A nun in Chicago says she has letters from Grace." "What? When?" "I have to go this weekend. Do you want to come with me?" There was a pause. "Are you sure?" he asked. "Maybe those letters say things that hurt." "I know. But we need to know the truth. The whole truth." "You're right." He took a deep breath. "Yes, I'll go with you." On Saturday morning, we left for Chicago. It was a 4-hour drive. Robert drove. I sat in the passenger seat, nervous, looking out the window. We talked little during the trip. Both of us were lost in our thoughts, wondering what we were going to find. We arrived at the convent at noon. It was an old building with stone walls and a quiet garden full of flowers. Sister Catherine received us at the door. She was a woman of about 70, small, with thick glasses and a kind smile. "Mrs. Carson, I presume?" "Yes. And this is Robert." The sister looked at Robert, her eyes widened. "My God," she whispered, "you must be one of the twins." "Yes, sister. You look so much like—" She stopped herself. "Come in, please. I have much to show you." She took us to a small office full of files and old boxes. On the desk was a manila folder. "Sit down," she said, pointing to 2 chairs in front of the desk. We sat. She opened the folder. "Before showing you the letters, I need to tell you the full story so you understand the context." "Okay," I said. Grace Miller arrived at St. Mary's Home in July 1967. She was 17 and 7 months pregnant. Her family had kicked her out when they discovered her pregnancy. The baby's father, a boy from her school, denied the child was his. Robert clenched his hands on his legs. "Grace had nowhere to go," continued the sister, "so she came to us. We gave her shelter, food, a safe place to have her baby." "Did they know they were twins?" I asked. "Not until the moment of birth. Back then there were no ultrasounds like now. When the first baby was born, we thought that was it. But 15 minutes later, the second was born. Harry and me," Robert said quietly. "Yes, 2 perfectly healthy boys. Identical. Beautiful." "And what happened next?" I asked. The sister sighed. Grace was devastated. She was 17. No money, no family, no support. And now she had 2 babies. She didn't know what to do. She spent 3 days in the infirmary, crying nonstop, holding her babies. My heart broke imagining that scene. "On the 4th day," continued the sister, "she came to talk to me. I was very young then, just taken my vows. Grace told me she couldn't take care of 2 babies, that she could barely take care of 1. She asked me if we could help her find an adoptive family for one of the children." "Just for one?" Robert asked. "Yes. She wanted to keep the other. She said she couldn't give up both, that she needed to at least try to be a mother to one of them." "And how did she choose?" Robert asked with a trembling voice. "How did she decide who stayed and who went?" Sister Catherine looked at him with infinite compassion. "She didn't choose by preference, son. She chose by chance. She closed her eyes and held both babies, and the one in her right arm, she kept. The one in her left arm, that was you. Robert covered his face with his hands. His shoulders shook. It wasn't because she didn't love you, the sister continued softly. It was because she had to make an impossible decision, and that was the only fair way she found to do it. And after? I asked, with tears rolling down my face. After, she left with Harry. She got a job as a housekeeper, lived in servants' quarters, worked day and night to support that child, and she succeeded. She gave him a life not perfect, but full of love. And she never came back for Robert? I asked. She couldn't. The sister opened the folder, but she wrote letters for years, letters she never sent because she didn't know where. She pulled out an old yellow envelope. This is from 1975, 8 years after the birth. She passed the envelope to Robert with shaking hands. He opened it and began to read aloud. My dearest Robert, today is your 8th birthday. Harry, your brother, turns 8 too. I made a small party for him. Just us two. A chocolate cake I made with my own hands and some candles. But while we sang happy birthday, I could only think of you. Where are you? What do you look like? Are you happy? Does your family treat you well? I think of you every day, every birthday, every Christmas, every moment of joy with Harry is tinted with the sadness of your absence. Harry doesn't know about you. I haven't told him. How could I explain that he has a brother he will never meet? How could I make him carry that pain? Sometimes I wonder if I did the right thing. If I should have found a way to keep you both. If I should have been stronger. But then I look at Harry healthy and happy, and I tell myself that at least I saved one. That at least one of my children is okay. I pray every night that you are okay too. That you found a family that loves you as I couldn't love you. That you are happy. I love you, my son. Even though you aren't with me, even though I may never see you again, I will always love you. Your mother, Grace. Robert couldn't keep reading. He was sobbing openly now. I got up and hugged him. We were both crying. Sister Catherine waited patiently with tears in her own eyes. There's more, she said gently when Robert could breathe again. She wrote one every year until 1995, 28 letters in total. Why did she never send them? I asked. Because adoption records were private. She didn't know who had adopted Robert. She didn't know his last name. She didn't know where he lived. So she wrote the letters and kept them here with us, hoping that someday someone would come looking for them. And here we are, Robert said. Here they are. The sister passed him the folder. All these are yours to read when you are ready. Robert took the folder with reverence, as if holding something sacred. Thank you, sister. There is one more, she said. One last letter. Grace brought it to me in the year 2000. She said it would probably be the last one because she was sick. She died 5 years later. She pulled out another envelope. This one was sealed. She asked me to give it to Robert if he ever came looking for her. That no one else read it. Just him. She passed the envelope to Robert. He looked at it for a long time. Then slowly he opened it. He read in silence. I saw his face change. How the tears rolled. How his lips trembled. When he finished, he passed me the letter without a word. I read it. My dearest Robert, if you are reading this, it means you finally came to find me. It means you found the answers you deserve to have. Probably I am already dead. Probably you never had the chance to meet me. And for that, it hurts me more than I can express. I want you to know something. Leaving you was the most painful decision of my life. Every day since then, I have lived with that pain, with the guilt, with the question of whether I did the right thing. But I also want you to know this. I loved you from the moment you were born until the moment I left you. I loved you with all my heart and continued loving you every day after. I didn't leave you because you weren't enough. I left you because I wanted you to have a chance at a better life than I could give you. A family with money, with stability, with 2 parents. Harry also had a difficult life. We grew up in small rooms. We ate beans and bread most days. We never had luxuries. But we had love, and I hope that was enough for him. I wish I could have done the same for you. I wish I could have been your mother too. But I couldn't, and I had to live with that reality every day. If you have ever wondered why I abandoned you, the answer is, I didn't abandon you. I released you. I gave you the chance I couldn't give you. And I hope with all my heart that you had a happy life, that you were loved, that you fulfilled your dreams, because that was my dream for you. I love you, my son. I have always loved you. I will always love you. Your mother, who never stopped thinking of you, Grace Miller. I folded the letter carefully and gave it back to Robert. We sat in that small office for a long time in silence, processing, crying, healing. Finally, Robert spoke. Thank you, sister, for keeping these letters, for waiting all these years. It was the least I could do, Sister Catherine said. Grace was a brave woman. She did what she had to do to survive and to give a life to both of you. She deserves to be remembered with honor. She will be, I promised. I promise. We left the convent with the folder of letters. Robert held it against his chest as if it were treasure. Because it was. It was proof that he had been loved, that he hadn't been abandoned, that his mother had chosen him the only way she could, with pain, but with love. In the car, on the way home, Robert finally spoke. My whole life I thought I wasn't wanted, he said, that I wasn't enough. And it turns out I was loved the whole time, just in a way I never knew. You were very loved, I said, taking his hand. By Grace, by your adoptive parents, and now by Sarah, Mike, and by me. He squeezed my hand. You know what's craziest about all this? What? That if Grace hadn't made that impossible decision, I never would have met my parents. I never would have had the life I had. And I never would have met you. He was right. All the pain, all the suffering, all the impossible decisions had led to this moment, to us together, finding peace in the midst of pain. I think, I said softly, that everything happens for a reason. We don't always understand why, but in the end, the pieces fit together in ways we never expect. Do you think Harry knew? Robert asked. Do you think in some way he knew I existed? I don't know. But I like to think so. That on some deep level he knew something was missing. And that now, wherever he is happy that we finally found each other. Robert smiled. The first genuine smile since we entered that convent. I like to think that too. We drove in silence the rest of the way, but it was a comfortable, peaceful silence. When we arrived at my house, it was already night. Do you want to come in? I asked. No, thanks. I need to be alone for a while, process all this, read the other letters. I understand. Before leaving, he hugged me. A long, strong hug, full of gratitude. Thank you, Rachel, he whispered, for everything, for finding me, for helping me discover the truth, for giving me a family. You don't have to thank me. We are family, and family takes care of each other. Family, he repeated with a small smile. Is that what we are? There was something in the way he asked it, something in his eyes. Yes, I said, although my heart beat faster. Family. For now, that was true. But we both knew it was starting to become something else, something neither of us was ready to name yet. But it was there. Growing. Waiting. Like a seed planted in fertile soil, waiting for the right moment to bloom. 6 months after that visit to Chicago, life had changed in ways I never imagined. Robert had become a constant part of my life. He didn't just come on Sundays anymore. He came on Wednesdays too to help me with the garden. And Fridays to cook together. And, sometimes during the week, just because my children adored him. Mike had invited him to be godfather to his baby when she was born, a beautiful girl named Grace, in honor of her great-grandmother. When Mike announced the name at the hospital, Robert cried. Tears of joy and healing from a circle finally closing. Sarah had also gotten very close to him. She called him to ask for advice on her legal cases. He, with his accountant mind, could see patterns and numbers in ways she found useful. And I had started to feel things that scared me. Not because they were bad, but because they meant I was letting go of something I thought I would never let go. My grief for Harry. It's not that I had stopped loving him. I would never stop loving him. He would always be my first love, my husband, the father of my children, the man with whom I built a life. But little by little, I had begun to accept that my life with Harry had ended, and that it was okay to start something new. One Saturday morning, Robert arrived earlier than usual. I was still in my pajamas, drinking coffee in the kitchen when he knocked on the door. Robert, I said, surprised when I opened it. I didn't expect you until 10. I know, sorry. But I couldn't wait. He looked nervous. He had something in his hands, a small box. Can I come in? Sure, come in. Want coffee? No, thanks. I need to tell you something. My heart started beating faster. We sat in the living room. He put the box on the coffee table but didn't open it yet. What's wrong? I asked. You're scaring me. I don't want to scare you. He took a deep breath. Rachel, these last months have been the happiest of my life in a long time. And I know it's probably too soon. I know maybe I'll never measure up to Harry. But I need to tell you this. Robert, I fell in love with you, he said all at once. I don't know when it happened exactly. Maybe it was at that concert. Or maybe it was when you invited me to meet your children. Or maybe it was the day you took me to my mother's grave and held my hand while I cried. I don't know. But it happened. And I can't pretend anymore that we're just friends. Tears filled my eyes. I fell in love with you too, I whispered. And I felt so guilty about it. Because it feels like betraying Harry. Like replacing him. Robert took my hands. You're not replacing him. I'm not Harry. I never will be. And I don't want to be. I want to be Robert. The man who loves you for who you are. Not because you're my brother's widow. But because you're intelligent and strong and beautiful and kind. I don't know if I'm ready, I admitted, for this. To love someone again. You don't need to be ready today. Or tomorrow. Or next month. I just need you to know how I feel. And that when you are ready, if you ever are, I'll be here waiting. I looked at this man in front of me. This man who had entered my life in the most impossible way. Who shared my husband's face but had his own heart, his own soul. And I realized something. I didn't have to choose between Harry and Robert. I could love both in different ways, in different times, but both were valid. Both were real. There's something I need to do first, I said. I got up, went to my bedroom, opened my nightstand drawer, and took off my wedding ring. I had worn it for 32 years. I never thought I would take it off. But now, looking at it, I knew it was time. Not because Harry didn't matter, but because I had learned that loving someone new didn't mean stopping loving who you lost. It simply meant your heart had found more room. I returned to the living room. Robert watched me expectantly. I need to do something, I told him. Will you come with me? Where? To the cemetery. Half an hour later, we were standing in front of Harry's grave. There were fresh flowers, the ones I put every week. Robert stayed a few steps back, giving me space. I knelt in front of the headstone. I touched Harry's name, engraved in the marble. Hi, my love, I whispered. I came to say goodbye. Not forever. Never forever. But in a different way. Tears rolled down my face freely. I met your brother. I know you already know. I know somehow you brought us together because we needed to find each other. He needed family. And I needed a reason to keep going. I touched my wedding ring. I fell in love with him, Harry. And I feel guilty about that. But I also feel maybe you would want this for me. That you would want me to be happy. That I wouldn't spend the rest of my life alone. I twisted the ring on my finger. So, I'm going to do something I never thought I would do. I'm going to take off this ring. Not because I don't love you. I will always love you. You were my first love. The father of my children. My partner during the best years of my life. I took off the ring slowly. I cried while I did it. But I need to move on. I need to live. Because I'm still here. And you would want me to live. Right? The wind blew softly, moving the flowers, and I felt in my heart that Harry was giving me his blessing. Thank you, I whispered, for everything. For 32 years of love, for 2 beautiful children, for a life that, although ended too soon, was complete. I will never forget you. You will never stop being part of me. I kissed the ring and then placed it in the small flower vase in front of the grave. But now it's time I find my own happiness again. And I think your brother can give me that. In a different way. But a good way. A very good way. I stood up. I wiped my tears. I love you, Harry. Always. I turned toward Robert. He had tears in his eyes, too. Are you sure? He asked. I'm sure. We walked back to the car holding hands. And although my heart still ached for Harry, it also felt light. Free. Ready to love again. 3 months later, Robert and I were in my garden. He had brought new seeds. Heirloom tomatoes, the same ones Harry used to plant. Are you sure you want to plant them? He asked. I know this was Harry's garden. It was Harry's garden, I said. But now it can be our garden. We don't have to erase his memory to create our own story. Robert smiled, that smile that no longer reminded me so much of Harry, but had begun to be uniquely Robert's. We planted together, dug the earth, put the seeds, watered them, and while we worked, we talked about our plans. Robert had decided to sell his house. It was too big for one person and was too far away. Have you thought about where you'd move? I asked, though I had an idea. Well, he said carefully. I thought, maybe if it's not too soon. Yes, I said before he could finish. Yes, you can move here, if that's what you were going to ask. His face lit up. Are you sure? I don't want to pressure you. I'm sure. This house is too big for me alone, and you spend most of your time here anyway. It makes sense. And your children? What will they think? I already asked them. Do you think it's okay? Actually, Sarah said it was about time we stopped pretending we were just friends. Robert laughed. He pulled me toward him and kissed me. It wasn't our first kiss. We had had our first kiss a month ago, one night after dinner, when the conversation stopped and we just looked at each other and knew it was the moment. But every kiss still felt special, still gave me butterflies in my stomach. I love you, Rachel, he said against my lips. I love you too, Robert. And I meant it, not in the same way I loved Harry. It was different, but it wasn't less real. It wasn't less deep. It was simply new. A second chance at happiness. A gift the universe or God or Harry himself had given me when I needed it most. That night we had dinner with the whole family. Sarah, Mike, his wife, baby Grace, Robert, and me. All around the table that used to belong just to Harry and me, but was now all of ours. Mike raised his glass. A toast, he said, to Uncle Robert, to Mom, and to Dad, who somehow brought us all together. To Dad, everyone repeated. And to second chances, I added. To the love we lost and the love we found. To second chances, everyone said. We toasted. We drank. We laughed. And in that moment, surrounded by my family, with Robert's hand in mine, I felt completely at peace. It had been a year since that afternoon at the supermarket when I saw a ghost. A year since my life changed forever, and it had been the hardest year of my life, but also the most transformative. I had lost my husband, but I had found his brother. I had cried more than I thought possible, but I had also loved again. I had discovered painful secrets, but I had also found healing truths. And I had learned something important. That life doesn't end with loss. It just changes. That love isn't finite. It can grow. It can expand. It can find new ways to exist. And that sometimes the most painful endings lead to the most beautiful beginnings. I got up from the table for a moment. I went to the living room where we had family photos on the wall. There was Harry at our wedding, with our children, in his garden, and now, next to those photos, there were new ones. Robert with Sarah and Mike, Robert holding baby Grace, Robert and me in the garden. I hadn't erased the past. I had simply added to the future. And that was okay. More than okay. It was perfect. Robert came and stood next to me. What are you thinking about? He asked. About how strange life is, I said. About how the most impossible things sometimes turn out to be exactly what we needed. Like finding you in that supermarket. Like thinking I had seen a ghost when actually I had found the future. He hugged me from behind, resting his chin on my head. Thank you for not running away, he said. When you saw me that day, when you could have thought you were crazy and let it go. Thank you to you for not calling the police, I joked. When a crazy woman chased you through a grocery store screaming a dead man's name, we both laughed. And in that laughter, there was healing. There was joy. There was hope. The things I thought I would never feel again after Harry died. But here they were. Because life, I discovered, always finds a way. Love always finds a way. And broken families always find a way to unite again. Even if it's in the most unexpected way. Even if it takes a ghost in a supermarket for it to happen. If my story helps a single woman open her eyes, believe she can love again after loss, understand that endings can also be beginnings, it will have been worth it. Because that is what I learned in this impossible year. that death is not the end of love, that secrets always find the light, that families are stronger than we believe, and that sometimes the greatest gift we can receive is a second chance, not to replace what we lost, but to honor it by building something new, something beautiful, something none of us expected, but we all deserved. Thank you for listening to the end. If this story touched your heart, subscribe and hit the bell to hear more stories of women who transformed their pain into wisdom. Every day a woman, a life lesson. Share this story with someone you love. Sometimes a story like this can change a whole day. God bless you, and until next time.